Welcome to Bet on the Web, an Ionic podcast. Join Matt Netko and Mike Hardington as they discuss a variety of topics through the lens of the open web. The core Ionic team you know and love, as well as industry experts, will join them in covering important industry trends, sharing thought leadership, and debating the newest technology shaping the web platform landscape. Are you trying to decide the best approach to developing a mobile app for your organization? With multiple stakeholders, hundreds of questions, and so much at stake, it can be difficult to know where to begin. So tune in with me to hear the top 4 concerns analyzed in depth: user experience, cost to build and maintain, time to market, and development organization fit. There's an approach that allows you to tackle all these concerns directly: hybrid app development. So why hybrid? What's involved with it? First and foremost, hybrid is a way of building mobile apps using open web technologies such as JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, rather than the proprietary specialized languages used by iOS, Android, and others. From a user's perspective, apps built with a hybrid framework like Ionic are identical to a native traditional app. They're downloaded from the platform's app store or marketplace and can access the same native features and hardware-based performance acceleration as any app built with a native SDK. Hybrid apps run in a full-screen browser called a web view that is invisible to the end user and feels just like a native app as well. Through customizable plugins, you can access different native features such as the camera, Touch ID, Bluetooth, geolocation, without the core code being tied to that device. That means that hybrid-built apps can run on any platform or device, all from a single code base, while still delivering a completely native experience. Sound too good to be true? Let's dive into those 4 concerns. The first concern revolves around being able to provide a great user experience for your application. The user experience has to be great. And can hybrid deliver the same high-quality performance as a native app? You can have the most engaging content, the best product, most useful service, etc., but if your app is difficult to use, it doesn't matter. Users don't care about the number of devices you're developing for, the amount of resources you put towards your app, or your time constraints. And they shouldn't. Users just want your app to be easy to use and perform as expected every time. A great user experience is key to building lasting, meaningful relationships with customers. So let's take a look at how hybrid can deliver a great UX across platforms. For one, there's more time to focus on features. Using a single code base, you're able to build multiple apps for multiple platforms. So that reduces overhead of building and maintaining separate code bases for each target platform, such as desktop web, mobile web, iOS, Android, Windows Phone, progressive web apps. The list goes on and on. And what that does for your team is it allows them to focus more on shipping features and improving app quality than fighting with their build tools and not delivering anything. You know, when we think about good user experience, we often think about having solid performance and good design. And yes, those are absolutely must-haves. But users these days have come to expect more. And specifically, they've come to expect a seamless app experience across devices. Think about how we access your particular favorite service today that's across all different sorts of devices. It might be integrated on your phone, in your car, on your TV, on your watch, etc. Fortunately, this is easy to deliver with a hybrid cross-platform approach. You can deliver the same set of features and experiences across desktop and mobile, all from a single code base. And fortunately, there's frameworks like Ionic that automatically adapt the look and feel and unique design patterns of whatever device your users are on at that time, whether it's Android, iOS, Windows, etc. One example of this, one of Ionic's customers, is Dow Jones MarketWatch app that serves hundreds of thousands of monthly active users. And they had an issue with when their app was native, they had all-time low ratings of 2.5 stars on iOS and Android, And by switching to the hybrid approach with Ionic, they were able to focus on that app quality and focus on delivering new features that their users were bringing up faster. And as a result, they're now at 4.5 stars on iOS and near that on Android. Another concern under the user experience bucket is speed and performance. Mobile app performance is absolutely critical to delivering a great user experience, of course. It absolutely, no one contests that at all. What we like to say at Ionic is if you're building a line of business app, a CRUD app, those types of things, then the hybrid approach with Ionic or similar frameworks will be just fine. If you're building a graphic-intensive app like a 3D video game or something with the latest and greatest graphic-related technology, then it's probably best to go with native. The next concern that we often hear about when thinking about the hybrid app development approach is cost. How can we reduce cost and not sacrifice quality for our mobile apps that we're building with the hybrid approach? Because when it comes down to it, in our IT orgs, cost is always a concern, and app development is certainly no exception. However, even with all the amazing tools that software developers have today, and agile tools, DevOps tools, application development, the processes there are still complex and expensive. And there's no guarantee that your project's going to be successful. But that's no reason to follow the traditional app development experience with the native approach. The hybrid app development approach delivers the experience your users demand while also saving your IT department time and money. And how might we save money? Well, one way is to save on hiring costs. Use your in-house talent. Virtually every business has a website, and therefore you have web developers. Why not use their skills, augment their skills, tap into their existing talent, and help them build even more software for your organization? More than 70% of developers know how to build web apps, compared to way less than that for all of the native programming languages. So why not tap into that? That way you can avoid having to hire expensive native developers. That sounds good to me. In addition to using in-house talent, there's also lower initial development and maintenance costs by going with the hybrid approach. Our customers often report that building with hybrid toolsets is faster than working in native code because ongoing maintenance is easier since we have one code base to worry about and not one per platform. This translates certainly into lower costs for initial development as well as ongoing maintenance of your apps. Even with the small amount of work that involves addressing platform-specific features, you're still going to come out ahead in terms of timing and development costs. One example of this is the CEO of Extraball, maker of Siberian CMS, that said that working with hybrid saved them around 60% of development time compared to native, and they achieved an 80% savings rate on the maintenance side of things versus the native approach. Next concern we often hear at Ionic is around improving time to market. Can the hybrid app approach address that at all? Because delivering timely development updates and releasing them on time is critical to any business today. So how can hybrid speed up and simplify app delivery? Because no matter what your IT budgets look like, there's something that everyone shares: the need for more time. Whether we're talking about development schedules that are measured in days, weeks, months, it doesn't really matter. There's always going to be requirements to fix bugs as fast as possible and address your competitors' new features and all those sorts of timing issues. And so time is just, quite frankly, one of your company's most valuable resources. And any sorts of delays in the app development cycle across development, testing, release can really affect the company's bottom line. So when we think about how we might improve our speed to market from a software application development perspective, We want to have rapid iteration and release of new features, which is exactly what the hybrid approach provides us. Because there's only one application to worry about, it is easier to add new features, even with multiple target platforms. And that's compared to even building in parallel for each with separate tools, separate programming languages, etc. One customer that's been big on that is Pacifica, who have a wonderful mental health type of application. And they're across all different types of devices and the app stores and things like that. The other aspect that's really neat is you're able to share live updates directly to your users. One thing that native typically cannot do because you have to get the latest version of the code from the Google Play Store, the Apple App Store, etc., which takes time and money to deliver those. That's a big differentiator for the hybrid app architecture, because App Store policies require that any changes to native code has to go through the app stores. But it is permissible to make changes to parts of the app that are based on web assets. And again, the majority of the code that you write for a hybrid app is web code, HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. So 90% of hybrid apps exist at that sort of web layer, so you can change your app directly by pushing changes right there. Now, it is important to mention that a hybrid architecture makes this possible, but you do need a product like Ionic Deploy to send those app updates to users. Prime example of this that demonstrates the importance of real-time app updates is the Napa Group, who manages an app that's used for premium wine auctions. The nature of their business requires that they make any new updates within a tight 2-week window. So as you can imagine, getting stalled by App Store review times, which can vary anywhere from 1 day to many weeks, depending on the black box of Apple and how their testing and review processes go. In a business trying to stay competitive, that's just unacceptable. It can really make or break the bottom line. And so you talk about the amount of risk and how, and they're big on that, how that has gone down for them compared to the traditional way of deploying a native app in the App Store. Because you traditionally would submit the update, wait for it to get reviewed, and then sometimes you realize there's a bug. And then you go through that review process over and over again. And all that time, your users aren't getting the latest features and the latest bug fixes. So with using Ionic Deploy, they're able to ship updates and fix bugs and address new feature concerns even on the same day that they're brought up by their users. That's a huge, huge asset for any company building apps today. The last concern we'll talk about in regards to the hybrid app development approach is, quite frankly, is it the right approach for your dev team? I've touted a lot of things here that sound quite incredible. Providing a great user experience with lower costs, less time to market, and still maintaining flexibility and more performant maintenance schedule. All of that sounds wonderful, of course. But the reality is not every organization is set up to use the hybrid app approach today. Is your team a good fit for hybrid development? Here are some things to look for. The first one is existing knowledge of web technologies. That's JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. Because the hybrid app development approach, such as Ionic, are based on open web tech and open web standards. So it's required that your dev team knows all of those three technologies together. Now, there is a high likelihood, because of the proliferation of the web and web technologies and browsers today, there is a high likelihood that you have at least some folks on your team that are aware of it and can dive in, but it is something to be aware of. Personally, I think that there's not as much of a steep learning curve, especially compared to more traditional languages like C, C++. So it is always a good idea to have your staff get up to speed on learning more front-end web technologies if they don't today. Next item to consider is your company's business and goals. What are you trying to accomplish with the types of apps you're trying to deliver? Are you a video game company and you're delivering incredibly fast, immersive experiences to millions of users? Then likely the hybrid app approach is not for you. You want to use the dedicated low-level hardware type languages and tool sets that native provides. But for many of us that are building line of business apps, the hybrid approach works very well. You can achieve the same type of performance that you would with native and the same type of rich features that with different UI controls and other things. Of course, I'm biased and can say that Ionic provides those types of things, but really the approach overall, whether you go with us or not, makes that possible. The last item to consider really only applies to consulting organizations, digital agencies, etc. And that's your client's proficiency with different mobile development approaches. Are they all in on the native approach? Do they have a team of web developers? That all factors into your decision to go hybrid with the apps and services you're delivering for them. At the end of the day, what truly matters here is maintainability. So you have to make sure that you're not handing off a solution that your client can't even use and support. What a disaster that would be, right? So to summarize, the hybrid app development approach is a great way to deliver a great user experience for your users, lower your costs to build and maintain the software, and all while improving your time to market. But it's not for every development organization. There are a bunch of factors to consider. But for the majority of businesses, it's a wonderful approach. I encourage you to give the hybrid app development approach a look. Check out ionicframework.com for more information. And if you'd like to chat about this and learn more and see if it's right for your organization, send me a note, netco@ionic.io. That's netkow @ionic.io. I'll be sure to include that email in the show notes. Thank you. This is Matt Netco for Ionic. Until next time.